One of the most feared men in the criminal underworld, a name whispered across borders, a man hunted for years by two nations, is finally dead, but his death did not bring peace. It brought fire. This is the story of how Nemesio Rubén Oseguera Cervantes, better known as El Mencho, rose to power, how he built one of the most violent criminal empires in modern history, and how his final moments triggered chaos across Mexico. Take a deep breath because this story is intense. El Mencho was not born powerful. He did not grow up rich. He came from humble beginnings in rural Mexico. But poverty, violence, and opportunity shaped his future. As a young man, he became involved in small-scale criminal activity. At one point, he even lived in the United States, where he was arrested on drug charges and later deported. That deportation would change everything. When he returned to Mexico, the country was already drowning in cartel wars. Powerful criminal organizations were fighting for territory, drugs were flowing north, money was flowing south, and violence was everywhere. El Mencho joined an existing criminal group, but he was not just another foot soldier, he was disciplined, quiet, strategic, and extremely ruthless. After internal betrayals and arrests weakened his organization, he saw an opportunity. He helped form a new cartel. A cartel that would become one of the most dangerous in the world. That organization was called the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, also known as CJNG. Unlike older cartels that preferred to operate quietly, CJNG used open displays of violence as psychological warfare. They posted videos of armed convoys, heavily armed men in military-style uniforms, armored vehicles, high-powered rifles. They wanted the world to see their strength. Under El Mencho's leadership, CJNG expanded rapidly. They fought rivals, they attacked police, they confronted the military, they took control of ports, cities, and trafficking routes. Within a few years, CJNG became a dominant force. Authorities described El Mencho as highly intelligent and extremely cautious. He rarely appeared in public. He constantly changed locations. He trusted very few people, and he surrounded himself with layers of protection. The US government placed a massive bounty on him, millions of dollars for information leading to his capture. He became one of the most wanted men alive, but capturing him was nearly impossible. He operated in remote mountainous regions. He used encrypted communications. He relied on loyal inner circles. Years passed, raids were launched, associates were arrested, but El Mencho remained untouchable until intelligence began to close in. Authorities reportedly tracked movements connected to someone close to him. Surveillance patterns changed, signals were analyzed, and eventually his location was identified near Tapalpa in the state of Jalisco, a region long considered a stronghold of CJNG. When Mexican forces moved in, it was not a simple arrest. It was a military-level operation, heavily armed troops, air support, strategic positioning. They surrounded the suspected hideout. Then gunfire erupted. What followed was intense, a fierce exchange between security forces and armed cartel members. Multiple individuals were killed. Chaos filled the area. El Mencho was reportedly wounded during the confrontation. He was placed into custody in critical condition, but he did not survive. After years of evading capture, after building an empire of violence, after becoming one of the most hunted criminals alive, El Mencho was dead. But the story did not end there. Within hours of the news spreading, violence exploded. Cartel members reacted. Vehicles were set on fire. Highways were blocked. Trucks were hijacked and burned. Cities experienced coordinated chaos. These tactics are designed to create fear, to show strength, to send a message. Roadblocks paralyzed movement. Businesses shut down. Flights were disrupted. Schools closed. Citizens were told to stay indoors. The death of one man had triggered a chain reaction. Why? Because when a cartel leader falls, two dangerous things can happen. First, retaliation. Loyal members may attack to prove strength. Second, internal power struggles. When the top leader disappears, others compete to take control. That competition can be even more violent than the original conflict. Experts now fear a power vacuum. Who takes control of CJNG? Will the organization split? Will rival cartels attack weakened territory? History shows that removing a cartel leader does not automatically end violence. Sometimes it makes it worse. CJNG is not just one man. It is a network, a structure, a business machine fueled by billions of dollars. Drug trafficking routes remain, weapons remain, money remains, loyal soldiers remain. The question now is whether the organization restructures or fractures. Some analysts believe his inner circle may attempt to maintain stability. Others believe ambitious commanders will fight for dominance. If internal war begins, civilians could suffer the most, because cartel conflicts are rarely contained. They spill into cities, into neighborhoods, into everyday life. El Mencho's rise represented a new era of cartel aggression: open confrontation, heavy weaponry, propaganda videos. His death could represent another turning point. For years, Mexico has struggled with cartel violence. Different administrations have tried different strategies: military crackdowns, arrests of kingpins, financial sanctions. But the results are complicated. Every time one leader falls, another often rises. The global implications are also serious. CJNG was deeply involved in international drug trafficking, including synthetic drugs like fentanyl. Their operations extended far beyond Mexico. Now international agencies are watching closely, monitoring whether drug supply routes shift, monitoring whether violence increases, because when a major cartel leader dies, the impact is not local, it is global. There's also a psychological dimension. For years, El Mencho symbolized power and fear. To his followers, he was untouchable. To authorities, he was a high-priority target. His death sends a message. No one is completely beyond reach, but it also sends another message. Removing one figure does not erase the system that created him: poverty, corruption, demand for drugs, access to weapons. These deeper factors remain. So what happens next? Scenario 1. CJNG stabilizes under new leadership. Violence continues at similar levels. Scenario 2. Internal conflict fractures the cartel. Rival groups attack. Violence spikes dramatically. Scenario 3. Government forces exploit the moment of weakness. Arrest key commanders. Seize territory. Which scenario becomes a reality depends on power dynamics unfolding right now. One thing is certain: the story is not over. The death of El Mencho marks the end of a chapter, but not the end of cartel violence. In the mountains of Jalisco, gunfire ended one man's reign. But across Mexico, uncertainty has just begun. The world watched as one of the most wanted criminals fell. Now the world waits to see what rises in his place. Power never disappears, it shifts. And in the shadows of organized crime, there's always someone waiting.